thanks for joining us today on the Man Blitz. I'd just like to take a moment to remind you to follow us on Twitter at Man Blitz. Visit us at www.3manblitz.com. You can listen to us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Breaker. And don't forget to view us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. Thanks, guys.
Hey, guys. Welcome into another edition of the Man Blitz College Edition. With me, Jeremy. You got Queasy. You got Andrew. Today
Queasy,
we're going to look at the Today we're going to look at the South Carolina for the 2020 football season, assuming we have one. Before we get started, we are going to take our shots.
Yep. Let's pour up
Everybody pour your whiskey.
That's what we do around here. Shot. Or should we play Sandstorm? That seems appropriate.
It does seem appropriate to play Sandstorm. What's that sound?
All right.
What is Sandstorm?
Oh, you're going to find out.
All right, guys. This one is we're dedicating this shot to the South Carolina GameCocks.
Yes, sir.
What was that? That was weird.
I don't know what that is, but hey, go for three. South Carolina.
Chaser.
Yes, sir.
Chaser. So all you guys that usually follow us, we're going to do things just a little bit different this time. Instead of starting out with offense and then going defense and then doing fun facts and key players, we're going to start with fun facts and key players and then go to defense and then do offense. So with that having said that, Andrew, take her away.
The South Carolina chicken tendies. Let's get started.
Chicken tendies.
You laughed way too hard at that. And for all you South Carolina fans that are about to get like real offended, take it easy. It's all right. We're just messing with you. So, number one, during every kickoff in Williams-Brice Stadium, for some reason, I didn't get to delve too far into this. I really didn't want to. But it's probably one of the most annoying traditions in college football, even from watching on TV. Agreed. But all the South Carolina fans, they'll stand up, they'll hoot, and they'll holler, and they'll wave their white towels above their head, kind of like the Steelers' terrible towel deal.
Yeah.
And they'll wave it around to Sandstorm, the most 90s techno song you've ever heard in your life. You know, it goes.
Oh, that's Sandstorm?
It's pretty bad. And they play it every single kickoff.
Every kickoff, man.
And probably pregame and so many other times. It is the most, they play it so much. And of course, it's not band played. It's not like, it's just through the speakers and just loud. And you're just over there like, again? Okay, we're going to roll Sandstorm again. Sandstorm?
Wow.
I didn't see that coming.
Wow. I didn't know that, man.
So, Queasy, we're taking you. Your first SEC game, by the way, is going to be the Tennessee-South Carolina game.
How about no?
Yeah, but moving on. Chicken Finger Wednesday. You've all heard of Taco Tuesday. You've all heard of Taco Tuesday, but in South Carolina they celebrate Chicken Finger Wednesday, and each week the Gamecocks flock to the dining halls to eat chicken fingers together. That's a thing they do.
Dude.
Okay. Now let me tell you about their mascot. Quit. Wait. Did you guys hear that? I keep hearing it.
I don't hear anything now. Seems to only happen when we say.
Is that coming from your end? That's not here. Anyway, so the third little fun fact here is we're going to talk about their mascot. His name is
not.
His name is Scott. Yep, he was born on October 16th, 1980, and he took over duties from his father, Sir Big Spur.
you know what? You know what's funny? They probably had a list of like 10 names. It was like
that's the one.
And yeah.
That's it.
Yo, that's the one. I don't need to hear the other 9. That's the one.
Okay. So number 4. This one has to do with number 3, so that's why I put it at number 4. Call. What? Man. It's a signature event for freshmen to kick off their South Carolina experience. After move-in, freshmen, along with upperclassmen, gather in the historic Horseshoe to join in their first official GameCock chant.
In the horseshoe?
What is it?
Why do they have a horseshoe?
They have a horseshoe, bro. Okay, number 5, so we can keep this thing moving.
Man, no, we're not moving on.
No, we have to move on. You have to get over this, Queasy. You have to move past this.
So kids gather around in a horseshoe to hang with a. Am I hearing this right?
Yeah.
It's tradition.
Oh my God.
Do they play Sandstorm when they do it?
For
That's
all
a
of you
serious
listening,
question. I mean, they always play it.
For all of you listening, we're sorry about all the innuendos. They cannot be avoided.
Dude.
South Carolina did this to themselves. And they did this to us.
And I will say, I know quite a few South Carolina fans. They're awesome people.
They really are.
They love their school, man.
And they're so supportive of their quarterback Helinski. I love that about them, and they have a lot of spirit. They have a lot of pride. But you know, I've been an SEC guy my entire life, and I've never heard of like most of these traditions. I wonder if they're like a little bit like kind of gun shy about talking about it, because guys like Quincy right here.
I didn't make up the traditions.
How many
It's not my fault.
Okay. Number 5, we're going to talk about the Tiger Burn. This one's actually kind of cool. The rivalry between South Carolina and Clemson dates back a long time, over a century, over 100 years. And the idea for burning Clemson's mascot was sparked after the 1902 rivalry game. So today they have like engineers build a 30-foot tall tiger, which they then set on fire before the Clemson game. These guys are intense, man. That Clemson-South Carolina game, it's not been good in recent years, but man, they feel the hate. They feel the hate a lot more than we do here at Georgia against Georgia Tech.
So if you get engineers to build this, it's got to be pretty in depth.
Yeah,
it's not like this.
It's really cool. We need to find a video of this. Stop. I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys a couple of my players, a couple of my key players. Then I'm gonna give you my win-loss, and we can dive into the offense and speak on the defense just a little bit. But so they're in a strange situation with their quarterbacks right now. They have 2 quarterbacks who are definitely viable starters, and I think it's going to be a pretty good competition. You've got, the returning. He was a freshman last year, Ryan Helinski. Now, Ryan Helinski, he holds a special place in the heart of South Carolina fans. His brother, Tyler Helinski, was a quarterback for Washington State, and in 2018 took his own life. Yep. Now, in Williams-Brice Stadium, at the end of every third quarter, they'll hold up the 3 fingers, and they'll do a little memorial for him. Yeah, his number was 3. Yep. And, it's kind of like a big deal to Helinski and the family that the university's kind of really, and the fan base and, the students and everything, they've really taken up to, like, support them and help with, suicide awareness and, stuff like that. So that's really great. And I'm glad that this kid moved out here and he got his chance to start. And he wears number 3 in honor of his brother. So I think that's a very honorable thing to do.
Definitely, man. That's huge.
But he's their, I don't know, he's their special player, really, it seems. But last season, quarterback Jake Bentley, he was like projected to be like the guy, this and that. Yep. He fell to injury. Ron Helinski came in and kind of tried to save the day, did what he could. And he actually performed pretty well, considering that most of the season he was actually kind of playing injured. I don't think a lot of people knew about that, but he had like a bum elbow and I think an ankle injury. that one of those injuries, if I'm not mistaken, required surgery in the offseason. But he had 406 attempts, 236 completions, 2,357 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's not mobile in the pocket, and it caused him to get sacked a lot. Their offensive line, wasn't able to hold up because he'd like to hold on to the ball too long. And he was a freshman. These are like freshman mistakes. These are rookie mistakes. These are things that'll be fixed, and I expect him to be a little bit better of a quarterback this season. That's for sure. Exactly. But he's actually in competition with a guy by the name of Colin Hill. He's a transfer from Colorado State. He came with their offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo. And he's a grad transfer, so this is his absolute last season of eligibility, and that's why I think there's going to be a fierce competition here. Now, his stats last season weren't all that impressive. He had 102 attempts, 69 completions, 840 yards, 8 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. On 69 completions to have 8 touchdowns, that's weird. Pretty solid. Pretty solid. But he knows Mike Bobo's system anyway, is kind of what I'm getting into. So I'm excited to see what's going on here. And then, of course, 2 other impact players that I have, 2 other key players. You're looking at Muschamp Lloyd. He's a freshman running back. Now, they don't have that proven running back in the back right now. So they actually landed this 5-star, and they landed him from they kind of jacked him from other schools like Auburn, Clemson, Florida. I think Georgia was in the mix for him, and he actually decided to go to South Carolina. I think he saw early playing time there, saw an opportunity to step in to be that guy right away. He ended up leaving by his junior year and move on and, have that professional career. But he looks like he's a very sturdy, very solid running back. This guy's 5'10", 200 pounds, like a little cannonball, if you will, like a little hard guy, and GameCocks. And to watch him play, he's very, very mobile, very fast. He changes direction very well, and I think he's actually going to do pretty good. He's going to get a lot of touches here, so there's not going to be any debate on whether or not he's going to make it after the first couple of games. You're going to know. He's going to be heavily relied on. And another guy I'd like to talk about is defensive end Jordan Birch. Now, you know that South Carolina lost Javon Kinlaw to the draft this past season, and it's no secret that he was definitely one of my favorite, if not my favorite, defensive player in the entire draft. He was like way underrated, and he still went high. I still think he was underrated. Very powerful presence on that defense. Now, while Jordan Birch may not be starting at defensive tackle, he is on defensive end. All that really matters on that defensive line is you have to have an anchor. You have to have a guy that's drawing attention. You have to have a guy that's creating havoc. And whether he's in the middle of the line or on the edge of the line doesn't really make a difference to me. But you have to have that guy who's able to let other players make plays. You want your quarterback to his attention to be drawn over here to the end or to wherever this guy is coming from, and you want to be able to hit his blind side and this and that. That's your way into that back. So you want Jordan Birch to step up and be that guy this season. He was a 5-star. He was the number 8 overall player, I believe, in this last recruiting class. Yeah, so we expect him to do some great things, and I think he will. Will Muschamp did a good job pulling him away. I think Georgia was after him too. A lot of good schools were, and he committed to South Carolina, and that's where he ended up going. And I'm very impressed with watching some of his high school tape. I expect to see a lot out of him. And he's drawing comparisons already to Jadeveon Clowney, who is one of my favorite defensive ends. Defensive end, linebacker.
Yeah. In college, he was a beast.
Oh, he was. He killed dudes.
Yeah. That's high praise, man. That's high praise. That's a lot of expectation on a freshman.
Yeah, well, it kind of looks like Will Muschamp's career is on the line, so of course he's going to be heaping praise on these guys that he's counting on to save his skin.
You can heap the praise on all you want, but unless they show up, your butt's definitely hot on that seat.
Yeah.
And looking at their schedule, man, they got it rough. We talked about they draw Clemson every year, they draw Georgia every year, they draw Florida every year, and this year in the West they are going to end up playing LSU and Texas A&M. Yeesh. So even with the potential, yeah, go ahead.
No, I apologize. I'm not an SEC dude, but the SEC West, does that consist of LSU, Alabama, and like Georgia too?
No, not Georgia.
No, they're A&M, Auburn. Yeah.
Okay.
Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Arkansas.
Okay.
Will be your West. They're in the East.
That's a tough conference. I think we talked about one in our last video. It's a tough conference to be in. That Willie's division that to be in.
Yep.
Yeah, you're good. In the East, they're going to play Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, Florida, Vandy, Georgia every year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So first, if we're assuming the schedule stays the same, they're going to have Coastal Carolina. I've got them taking a win there. East Carolina, another win. Missouri, I think they'll take the win at Missouri. Now, at Kentucky, I put a win, but I'm really tempted to change it to a loss. Kentucky's supposed to be pretty tough this year. You'll just have to check it out when we get into our Kentucky video. I may actually end up changing that. But for right now, I'm going to leave it where it's set as a win. At Florida, of course, a loss. At Tennessee, I think it'll be a loss. I think Tennessee's on the rise, but of course, we'll get to that on our Tennessee video. Versus Texas A&M, that'll be a loss. Vanderbilt, that's a win right there near the end. You kind of need that because after that, you got Georgia and LSU, LL. Then you've got Wofford. I think they can take Wofford, and then they're playing Clemson in Clemson, at Clemson. So I've got like 6-6 with a ceiling of 7-5, but could very easily be 5-7. So Muschamp will not be there next season.
I don't think he will, and unless they just want to carry over because of COVID and everything, they just want to see it ride one more season. I have South Carolina going 5-7. It's almost the same mirror of your schedule. Coastal Carolina win. All their non-conferences, I believe I have a win, except for Clemson, of course. I have that one as a loss, who's a playoff contender. I do have them beating Missouri. I think we talked about it in a previous video, but aside from that, as far as your SEC goes, lost to Kentucky, Florida, Tennessee, Texas A&M. I got them beating Vandy. I've got them losing to Georgia, LSU, and like I said, Clemson beating Wofford. So their November schedule is just horrific. It's probably the worst 4-game stretch. They get a little breather with Wofford, but you get Georgia, LSU, and Clemson in the same month. And, oh, by the way, they go to Death Valley in LSU, and they go to Death Valley in Clemson. So that's just, I mean, that's just rough. That's just a Death Valley.
Let me mention this. Death Valley. People shouldn't sleep too much on Wofford. I've heard about Wofford. Wofford actually plays UTC. No, and they're probably the toughest, the second toughest team in that conference right there. Wofford, if they sleep on Wofford, that could end up being a loss for them too. But they should win that game. Wofford isn't as easy as most people might think.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to look, okay, South Carolina versus Wofford. Yeah, they're going to destroy Wofford. But, I mean, if they lose all the games that we have them projected to lose, and they're coming off of a double loss against Georgia and then going to LSU, they could be just destroyed mentally. And
that morale. Yeah.
So I've got them 5-7. I don't know about a ceiling, maybe 7-5 like you had said, Andrew, but I think what you really try to get to is get to a bowl game. Last year you were 4-8. Last year your schedule was just as horrendous. You had Alabama on that schedule. You had Georgia, of course. You had all the West teams, but you caught Georgia and Florida, and right in the middle of the schedule,
they've got A&M yearly,
So. Yeah, so that's rough. I mean, they had a rough schedule last year. It may not be as rough, but it's pretty much just as bad. You traded out Alabama for LSU. I mean, come on.
No, seriously, we're talking. You've got like you said, Georgia, LSU, Clemson, Texas A&M, and Florida. That's 5 teams that are potential playoff candidates.
Yeah,
that we're looking at preseason that you've got lined up, and it's just
it's rough.
I'm looking at it definitely everything going downhill after Kentucky. You're going to feel really good about yourself the first 3 or 4 games of the season, but man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I haven't done my studying on Kentucky just yet, but I heard they might be a surprise team in the SEC this year.
Yeah, I've heard that too. We'll have to get there. I'm excited to do Kentucky, actually.
Exactly.
I am too. I think it all hinges on their quarterback. I think his name's Terry Wilson, something like that. I remember it's Wilson. That's my last name.
Okay.
I'm not super high on him. But
I'm not either. I know he's athletic. I know he has a good arm, but he got injured last year, so we'll see.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and take it over, and we'll just break down a couple things. So, like Andrew said, Will Muschamp, he is on the hot seat. I had stated it already. I'm not sure if the COVID thing might alleviate it a little bit because they might cut him some slack, say, these were extenuating circumstances. To me, you never cut ties with a coach that's doing an okay to good job at a school like this unless you have somebody just prolific coming in that's is going to do better. Because why would you trade out somebody for more of the same? What's the point?
Okay,
I know that you don't want to be bad.
Let's be honest, though. Look at the competition they're facing year in and year out, and Spurrier did a much better job with it. So it can be done. And, speaking to the COVID thing, I'm sure a lot of South Carolina fans will agree. Will Muschamp right now with this whole COVID thing, he's lying in the bed that he's made. He's dealing with the recruits that he's had. He's been at this school for a long time. So, a lot of the players that are already there know the system. So they really honestly should be at an advantage within the SEC East. They've got a returning starting quarterback. They've been returning 4 of 5 offensive linemen.
Right.
It's
not so dry cut as that, though, because when you talk about having the same system, you're bringing in Bobo. He wasn't there last year. And, yeah, it may be easier for Bobo to kind of continue on with what they had, seeing as they only had 5 spring practices. So that's all he had to see to really evaluate his talent and try to do any type of install of his offense. So that's not a ton. So that's with his players there, obviously. You really don't know what you're going to have. And I'm just trying to look at it as an AD perspective. What are you going to do? How's it going to be? There's a lot of hype around South Carolina I've heard from other people. I'm not really sure where it's coming from. I think it's because, cover your ears, Andrew, that they did beat Georgia last year and stymied their playoff hopes. And it was really done defensively. Offensively, I think they just chipped away at Georgia just enough on their defense to where they got a couple of scores when they needed them. They held Georgia to a couple of field goals, and they got a ton of turnovers. It was definitely Fromm's worst played game I've probably ever seen him play. It was just terrible. I couldn't believe it was happening.
The one quarterback, Israel Muschamp, that's his name.
Muschamp.
Israel Muschamp. Yeah, he had all 3 interceptions in that game. That dude was a beast. He was on fire. Now a couple of those passes bounced off receivers' hands, so you can't really put it all on Fromm. But
rough.
He didn't have a good game either. But he was on fire that game, and he won them that game. Between him and Javon Kinlaw.
Yeah,
that was it.
That's another big thing. I know I'm covering the offense, but Kinlaw, it's one of my biggest questions with South Carolina is how do you fill that void, especially in a short offseason? I'm not sure you can. He was such a good talent. But, yeah, so just kind of staying on where I was at. Muschamp, he's been, as a head coach, he's been 54-46 over 8 years. Since he's been at South Carolina, he's been 26-25 for 4 years. So he's broken even, which definitely puts him way under where Spurrier had them. But let's be honest, Spurrier was a innovative, fantastic coach. Even when he was in his latter years at South Carolina, he was an offensive mind and just a great – I, of course, hated him when he was at Florida. We always called him at Tennessee Darth Visor. I hated that dude. But you couldn't take away from what kind of good coach he was. And he was a good quarterback. He won the Heisman, blah, blah, blah.
I would definitely say that he had a hand in getting Mark Richt gone, too. Year in, year out, he had Mark Richt's number at Georgia.
He did.
No matter how much talent we had.
He's a smart dude. He's a smart dude. He understands what you're trying to do, and he knows how to counter it. And if you don't have an answer for it, he'll knock you down.
Are we starting a movement right now? Bring back Spurrier? Are we starting a movement?
No. Although I will say that I just love this story. This is kind of off topic, but it's South Carolina. So I remember hearing when he was still there that he would run practices and have his shirt off with his old man boobs out, and he would have a Miller Lite or something popped and be drinking. I just love that. I hope there's a picture we can find of it. But
Steve Spurrier sounds like everybody's dad.
Yeah.
So why did he leave there, or what happened with Spurrier?
I think he was just kind of old. I think he was. I think he just retired. He was done.
Okay.
Yeah. Who was that quarterback? Do you remember who he had? It was way before Jake Bentley. He was there. Stephen Garcia. You remember Stephen Garcia? He was supposed to be great every year, and he did start for South Carolina forever. And this is me going off the cuff. But that was towards the end of his run. Anyway, so South Carolina brings in Mike Bobo. He's went on record as saying that he wants to be a physical type of running football team. in his own words, and I am paraphrasing, I'm not reading off a quote, it's just something I've read that I've retained, is that he believes that you cannot win in the SEC without running the football, which I wholeheartedly agree with. He did, like I said, have his 5 spring practices where he got to look at the offense. He did not get to look at Colin Hill, which, of course, he came from Colorado State, so he knows what he's got. But he got to see Helinski, and he praised all over this kid. He said that he was doing fantastic. He was being accurate with the football, everything you would want. I'm not sure what kind of offense he's going to run, if it's going to be kind of what he was doing at Colorado State, if it's going to be what he was running with Georgia quite a few years ago. But I know that he wants to run the football, and he wants to spread the ball around. So I put down that he says he wants to be really break his players down and see what kind of offense he's going to run. He probably run a lot, trying to make the run and attack the staple of his offense and have balance. So it's kind of a generic take.
I imagine they'll probably run a pro style. That's what he ran at Georgia, pro style with heavy passing.
Yeah,
but we had the receivers for it back then. I don't know that South Carolina necessarily does. I know they got what's his name, Shi Smith coming back. I think he's pretty decent.
So they did lose. What's his name? I knew I was going to do this. They lost their number 1 receiver. Brian Edwards. How can you remember a name like that?
Oh, yeah. He was setting records with receiving yards and touchdowns.
Receiving yards and most games in a row with a reception and all kinds of South Carolina records. Okay. And he was definitely the staple of the receiving, and he's done. He's gone. He graduated. Now you've got Shi Smith. He's a senior. You only have 6 returning starters on offense, 4 of them being offensive linemen. And 2 of those being Ryan Helinski, who was a freshman the previous year, so he's a sophomore, and Shi Smith. So everybody else, they may have starting time, and they may have playing time, but they weren't your regular starters last season. So it's a tall order. I think your defense is probably more of what Will Muschamp is probably known for and what he's more comfortable with. And your offense, I think he's really looking and hoping Mike Bobo can put something together in this short amount of offseason to get them going. And I just don't really see it happening, just to be honest with you. Like I said, I've got them going 5-7, and I don't have the ceiling very high just based off of the talent they have around them, who they have to play. It's a real big gauntlet. In the early season, it's not terrible, but they do have to go to Kentucky. Like you said, it might be a 50-50 game. Then they have to go to the Swamp. Florida's supposed to be real good. And then they have a couple games that they could win, but they got Texas A&M. They should beat Vandy. And then
if you'll remember last year, they did get Georgia, and they almost had Florida. I remember watching it. It was a close game. It was a very good game.
And I will say,
I don't think they can pull it out in the Swamp, though.
They're really pinning it on Bobo, trying to help them, because they had like one of the worst percentages of actually scoring touchdowns when they were in the red zone or when they were across the 50 of getting any points whatsoever. So they really just deflated. And then after the Georgia game, they put up like appalling numbers. So after Georgia, they played Florida, they lost 27-38. They played Tennessee, they lost 21-41. They beat Vandy 24-7, and after that, they went out and they scored 15 points against App State. So they lost to Appalachian State 15-20. I think that really took the wind out of their sails, because after that,
he's actually at Missouri now, that head coach, Drinkwitz.
Yep, Drinkwitz. And then after
they went every year.
Yeah. After they lost to them and scored only 15 at App State, they only scored 6 against Texas A&M and 3 against Clemson. So you can kind of forgive the Clemson and Texas A&M. You know, they played at Texas A&M, which was pretty tough, but their offense really deflated. And I know that they're really looking for Bobo to turn that around. Aside from that, I don't really have a whole lot other than just what you kind of already touched on was who's going to be the starter. Is it going to be Helinski? Is it going to be Colin Hill? I will say for Colin Hill, he didn't participate in the spring practices because he had a knee injury. This is a big deal. Okay, so he blew out his knee. He tore. Well, I don't want to say blew it out. He tore his ACL. Who was it against? I think it was against Arkansas, and that was his 3rd ACL tear in that knee. So. Yeah. Saying that he's going to come in and start, I would look at it more like they're relying on Helinski to start and him to be somebody that can kind of mentor maybe the system that Mobo's wanting to run and kind of come in if he needs to. But yeah, I wouldn't look for Colin Hill to start. I mean, maybe his knee's good. I don't know. But 3 ACL tears makes me make the lemon face. Like, Ooh, I don't know.
Man, I hate that for a kid, man. Three of them in that one knee. That doesn't sound good.
And I know we didn't really talk a whole lot about the defense, but I do just want to hit on J.C. Horn real quick.
Oh, we ain't even started defense yet, dude.
Yeah, I'm just saying, y'all need to watch out for old J.C. Horn. Now, his stats aren't like super impressive, but I don't think quarterbacks are necessarily like inclined to throw his direction, and that's a good thing. That's kind of like the same deal that DeAndre Baker had in 2018 when he won the Jim Thorpe Award. I don't think he had a single touchdown allowed, but there just weren't a whole lot of passes thrown to his side of the field, because people knew his skill and they knew who he was. J.C. Horn, I think, can be one of the he can take that step forward and be that guy this year for this defense. And they're absolutely going to need it, because I see them playing from behind a lot. So teams are going to come in and they're going to be scoring on South Carolina left and right. Supposedly, if this guy don't step up, he's going to have to slow it down. He's going to have to stop other teams so that his offense has a chance to stay in this game. And I mean, if you're looking in the SEC right now, you're seeing a lot of people moving towards a passing attack. So cornerbacks are becoming more and more and more important in this defensive scheme. You know, and it used to be they just you wanted a cornerback who could defend the pass, but mainly run up and stop a run if things kind of got out of hand and a guy got to the outside or something like that. But nowadays, nah, man, these guys got to be just as athletic as these amazing receivers that are coming in.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got to tie those too with those pass rushers. And that's why, I mean, Javon Kinlaw, he was a good pass rusher, but mostly he anchored down the middle, and he kind of directed things from there. But you need that pass rush, because even a great corner can't cover consistently 5+ seconds. That's tough. That's a lot of time for a receiver to put double moves on you. And I don't care how fantastic you are. You can't cover somebody that long. So that's pretty rough. They need that. It goes hand in hand. A good defensive end will make a cornerback look fantastic, way better than he is. A good corner may help out a defensive end when he's not getting pressure. So they go hand in hand.
And I mean, and I see this defense is returning 6 starters, so that's good. I mean, their defense wasn't like atrocious last season or anything. They've got Aaron Sterling. He's a senior defensive end, and then of course you've got on the other side of him, opposite, you've got Jordan Birch, who we just assume is going to be starting. And it's supposed to be this phenomenal force to be reckoned with. But at defensive tackle, of course, you've got guys who, of course, didn't start. You had Javon Kinlaw last season, but you got Zach Pickens, who's a sophomore, and Keir Thomas, who's a senior. But at middle linebacker, you've got Ernest Jones returning. He's a junior. You've got Sherrod Green, who's a senior. So this guy's got some experience. Hopefully he'll be, helpful there. And those two guys, the middle linebacker and outside linebacker, Jones and Green, they both started last season. So that's something that's good. They've been through this SEC gauntlet before. And then, of course, like I talked about your cornerbacks, you're looking at Muschamp and Horn. Those are the guys who I'm really excited about to see play. Like I said, I talk about Jordan Birch a lot, but I think these corners are really going to step up and have excellent seasons.
And I'm sure, Queasy, you can probably speak on this. This defense is going to have to really help out the offense, because they're going to have to find their identity. They've got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of new guys coming into the system, and they're going to be the rock. They have to be the ones that you turn to if you're going to have any success.
Exactly. If you're going to win any games, it's going to have to be on that defense right away, because that offense is learning and trying to get into a flow, especially at the beginning.
No doubt. So if you see your –
like I said, you've got – go ahead.
I was going to say, if your defense starts folding when you've got most of your starters returning on that side and your offense is struggling, dude, that 5-7 might not even be attainable. Yeah. And I've seen that in teams. You know what I mean? If you're looking at your rock to be your defense, and all of a sudden, it doesn't take much on defense to struggle just a little bit, as offense too. But if you're going 3 and out, or you're staying, if you're a defense and you're staying on the field a lot and you're getting tired and there's nobody subbing in for you and you're just sucking wind, you're in for a bad day. Yeah. Real bad. I look for Ernest Jones, though. I look for Ernest Jones, just real quick. That linebacker, he's like the captain. I know he calls the plays from the middle of the field, and he had 97 tackles last year, 5.5 for a loss, and they really need to look for him to be the linchpin of that defense and to utilize him to try to create some havoc. And they're going to need a lot of turnovers. They need to be aggressive to try to help the offense. A lot of turnovers.
They've got the defense is definitely going to have to keep the offense in the game, because, like you said, there's definitely a learning curve.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And I think of the 4 offensive linemen that we talked about returning, only one of them is playing the position that they started at last season.
Yeah, so they got some some jumbling.
That's different. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't really even get to talk a whole lot about the offensive line. I kind of just overlooked them. I think they're supposed to be starting left tackle will be Ja'Kai Moore, which is weird, and this is all in limbo. He's a freshman, so automatically your left tackle you've got a freshman. Left guard you got Cedarius Hutcherson, who's a senior. Center you're looking at Hank Manos. Right guard Javon Gwynn. Right tackle Dylan Wanham, who's a junior. And like you said, they weren't playing necessarily those positions a whole lot last year. They moved around.
It definitely has a huge effect moving from center to guard or, guard to tackle. I mean, like those, you may not, if you're not like super into football, you've never played the sport or you don't really understand. I mean, like it might not make a whole lot of sense saying, oh, he's doing the same thing. He's just blocking a guy, this and that. But the mechanics of the position are completely different.
It's not even close to being the same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say it's like completely learning a new position. There are some things that are similar, but learning, assignments and, which direction you need to block and who you need to catch. And I mean, like it's definitely going to be, like you said before, a learning curve. I think that's the best way to describe what we're expecting with this offense.
And I akin it to like, okay, if you're right-handed or left-handed, pick up a pencil or a pen and write in the other hand. That's what they're having to do in a physical way. So it's not easy. I've tried to write left-handed, and it's like, like a 2-year-old's writing. It's the same thing. It is still blocking, but everything's exactly inverted, and it's tough, especially when your assignments are different. And center is probably one of the most hardest positions on the field next to maybe quarterback. As far as, centers don't get any of the respect they deserve from your average fans. They don't think nothing about it, but they have to know everything. They have to know all their blocking assignments, everybody else's blocking assignments, make all the changes. It's one of the most difficult positions on a football team.
Agreed.
So anyway, and they're not great. I don't know how else to say it. I'm not trying to be mean. South Carolina fans, like I said, I know a lot of them. They're great people. They've got a lot of passion. They love their team. Yeah. They've been through ups and downs. Mm-hmm. Their 5-year win trend is in 2015 they had 3 wins, 2016 6, 2017 9, 2018 7, and then last year they had 4. So they're not going the right way, and that's why Muschamp is on the hot seat.
I'm telling you guys though, you heard it here first. I'm calling it. Muschamp's gone.
Wow! After this season or before the season, you really get kicked off.
It's going to be after the season, but I'm telling you that there's not a coach in the SEC that's got a hotter tail than him right now. I'll say that.
No, there isn't.
Except maybe Derek Mason, but even then, what do you expect?
Vanderbilt's so tough. There's no.
We'll get there.
Franklin. We will get there. And just a little tidbit when we're talking about the offense is they actually tried to use a lot of tempo. So in other videos we've talked about teams trying to use tempo. They used a lot of tempo last season, and it didn't really work for them very often. It might have even put them kind of counterproductive, trying to go a little too fast, and then they go out, and then their defense goes out, and they get tired. So anyway.
Well, do you guys have anything else to add?
I don't. I do know that Edwards. I know we brought up Edwards, their wide receiver that they used to have.
Yep.
They're doing pretty well. He actually got drafted by the Oakland Raiders, but the Las Vegas Raiders.
That's hard not to say, isn't it?
Exactly. So I want to say it's a bad team for him, but he might even be. I know we speak of fantasy a lot. He might even be a nice sleeper. With the hands that he do have.
I may have to take a look at him.
He could potentially be a number 1 for them. Number 1 receiver for them. So
I know that you about to say a shot bet on that. That's tough.
No.
Go ahead. I thought you were about to say it.
No, that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say we need to put a pin in this one and revisit this.
Okay.
That's all I was going to say.
Like, man, that's tough. Man.
Shot bet.
Shot bet. Call you shot. What? Yeah, South Carolina, man. If you don't agree with us, let us know. If you do agree, come on with it. Hit us up on Twitter. Questions, suggestions. Follow us on YouTube. Hit us up on Facebook.
Definitely.
We try to keep up on all those things. But South Carolina 2020. Let's hope we play a full season.
Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow the 3-Man Blitz any way you can. You can find us at 3manblitz.com. Blah, blah, blah. You know the host spiel. You heard it in the beginning.
Come on. I guess that does it, right?
Go Gamecocks. Stop. Did you hear it? It didn't do it that time. It didn't do it.
It did it. Gamecocks. All right, well, go for 3.
Go for 3.
Yes, sir.